English is Stay with Ara. Today, gagawa tayo ng kalbitsim. To subscribe and like! So kalbitsim is basically beef ribs, and we prepare this during special occasions when we have big family gatherings or a very special visitors. This is something that we can prepare as a delicacy. However, it's very easy to prepare, and I'm pretty sure that it's a very family-friendly taste kasi hindi siya maanghang. So here I got parang beef short ribs ang tawag nila here on the supermarkets and groceries. If you cannot get something na beef short ribs, this would be a very big, very nice cut. And hiwain natin siya sa gitna. And I actually mix it up with beef cubes because sometimes mga bata, they don't really like a lot of bones on it. Now for this beef short ribs, the important part in making kalbitsim is to prepare this very clean taste of meat, wherein kailangan talaga tanggalin natin ang mga blood clots, which is actually inside the bones and also inside the meat. So binabad ko siya sa water for around 6 hours. What you can do is, it's very good to defrost it when you get from the groceries or markets. Put it on a big bowl like this, ng fresh water, and put it on the ref. While it defrosts, it also brings out all these blood clots niya. And then just keep changing the water siguro every 2 to 3 hours until maging napakamaputla or very pale ang ating beef. Now for this beef short ribs na kinuha ko, let's just trim it first. So as you can see, I cut it na may buto siya sa gitna and the meat around it. And although here sa labas, it still looks very pale, when I cut it, still inside it's very maputla. That's why it's very important that we babad in the water to remove all these bloods. And let's also remove all these mga extra fats niya because it gives a very parang greasy look after all. Yung mga excess taba, I try to remove it. Sometimes I can use my scissors if I just want to remove the mga fats sa gitna, in between the bones, just to have a lot of parang lesser grease on my meat. And for the beef cubes which I got addition to my beef ribs, I'm just gonna give a little bit of a slit para pumasok yung mga flavors mamaya. Like here, it's medyo malaki. I'm just gonna give a big slit para lang it becomes parang all the flavors can go inside. So basically, kalbitsim, kalbi is actually a Korean term for the ribs. So you can say ito yung mga ribs ng ating baka. And then jim is basically, it means parang stew siya. It's like a long way of cooking our meat. Parang slowly braised beef ribs. So this is a very nice cut of a beef kalbitsim, with a bone here and a right amount of meat. So this is the kind of cut that we want to have. However, if it's really hard to get something like beef ribs in whatever groceries or markets you go to, beef cubes could be actually a good alternative too. So now after I have already trimmed my beef, because some people worry na baka yung mga flavors ng beef parang mawawala because nakababad siya sa water ng matagal, and I actually had it replaced yung water niya around mga 6 times already. What I'm gonna do is on my last babad, I'm gonna add around 2 generous amount of 2 tablespoons of sugar. And by the way, this is 2 kilograms of beef ribs and beef cubes, beef meat. So I'm just gonna melt my sugar sa aking water. What it does is it helps remove all this blood even more, and also it kind of gives a first layer of marinade sa ating beef. So all the flavors that's lost while nakababa siya sa water, the sugar kind of complements it. So later when we cook it, hindi siya masyadong parang bland. So don't worry na hindi matatanggal yung mga flavors ng beef. So this is what you wanna do on your last babad. And we're gonna probably just wait for it around mga 20 to 30 minutes. And while we're waiting, now we're gonna have to boil a big pot of water. Prepare enough water na mabababad para we can cover this up. There's no exact measurement, just enough water to give a short blanch of our beef is enough. So I'm gonna boil here generous amount of water. And then, ipapasok natin ang ating beef sa ating boiling water mamaya. Must try recipe! So now my water is boiling, we're gonna add this meat sa ating boiling water. What it does is, fini-freeze and nilalak niya yung mga blood clots which may be still inside the meat and mga in between the bones, para later on when we cook our kalbichim, hindi siya parang madumi tingnan because or else all this parang, you know, the brown stuff comes out. And also, it is actually the blood that makes parang nagbibigay ng may konting malansang smell to our kalbichim later on. So we want to kind of like parang pre-cook and lock in those blood clots na hindi siya parang hindi niya dudumihan ang ating kalbichim mamaya. It's super masarap. So we're not gonna boil na matagal, around 7 minutes. As you can see na bumubula siya and we see all this brown stuff. Actually, this is the remaining blood sa loob ng ating karne and this is what we want to remove. Dahil if we use just diretso on our kalbichim mamaya, it has a very, parang hindi siya maging malinaw tingnan and also the smell is not really good after all. So now, after blanching it or boiling it for around 7 minutes, we're just gonna give a very cold shower on our beef. Tatanggalin natin siya sa ating fire. Stay tuned! So it's very important that we rinse our beef and especially mga sa dulo-dulo ng ating mga bones and in-betweens because doon nakasingit lahat ng mga blood clots. And as you can see, our beef looks very clean. This is really ready for our kalbichim. Now I rinsed my caldero again and I'm gonna put already all my blanched and rinsed beef on my pot. So on my pot, I'm gonna turn on my fire already on high heat. And we're just gonna dump in all lahat ng mga sauces natin. First of all, we need like sugar. The most important ratio here is really your sugar and your soy sauce. It has to be 1 and 1/2. So kalahati lang ng toyo is the amount of sugar you have to add. So first, we're gonna put in our sugar. Much better to use brown or washed sugar. And your 1 cup of your toyo. Well, sometimes ang ginagawa nila, they already melt all this yung mga pang sauce sa isang bowl and then they add. But for me, I just kind of think that it's all the same anyway. This is gonna be like a simpler version. Nagbabawas pa rin tayo ng something to wash. And also here I have 1/2 tablespoon of ginger. So this is parang minced or grated ginger. Nagtutulong siya, it just helps parang remove all this malangsang smell of our carne and also it boosts up. And of course, my favorite garlic. I have here 2 very generous amount of my minced garlic. So I'm just gonna roughly mix it up. And this is cooking wine. So whatever kind of cooking wine you have at home, we're gonna use same amount with the sugar. So 1/2. And some pepper, paminta. And then we're gonna add in our water. Yung tubig, I prepared here around 3 liters of water. However, when we're gonna add in here, I'm gonna add siguro first around 3 cups or just amount na mabababad yung ating karne. There is really no exact amount of the measurement of your water for now because what we want to do at this stage is just to tenderize para lumambot yung ating karne. So after adding in our water and later on as it boils, pag medyo nag-dry, we add more water and later on if medyo parang we think is masyado masabaw, we just boil more. So first, prepare around 3 cups and then just monitor and pa-add na lang ng pa-add as needed. And of course, we need our sesame oil, 4 generous amount, 4 tablespoons. So kalbitsim really takes a lot of patience kasi matagal talaga siya maluto para we can have this very soft, tender meat. So it will take around 40 minutes to an hour for us to boil it. So just keep on boiling, and habang nagbo-boil, then we prepare our ingredients. For kalbitsim, the best vegetables to complement it is really those that gives really nice color. And for the flavor, of course, beef always goes best with radish. So I have here 1 radish, and I also have here carrots, some leeks, and some mushrooms, and some onions as well. So, balatan natin lahat. And I actually forgot, before habang nagbo-boil siya, I have here two long, healthy stems of my leeks. I'm just gonna use first the 1/2, just to add on to my first initial boil of my kalbitsim. So try to leave some leeks because later on I want to give a very bright color of the green on our kalbitsim to make it really appetizing. Ngayon, siguro this is around 1 cup. I'm gonna already add in to my meat just to add it on to the flavor of it. And now let's just prepare our vegetables by peeling it off. Now for the vegetables, I have here onions, radish, and carrots. For the carrots, konti lang because I noticed hindi masyado maraming tao, they really like carrots when they eat karne. For the radish naman, I'm just gonna cut them parang medyo just enough na magandang size to complement our kalbi. And we don't want na masyadong matalas yung kanyang mga edges because when we boil it later on, when we cook it together, baka pag mag-overcook sa heat, medyo it can have the parang magmumush-mush. And also because it was like parang kalbitsim was mostly parang prepared to cook for our visitors and something like a special dish, we sort of want to give a special look. So what we want to do is we just want to curve off the edges. It's best to use like a peeler para medyo mag-smoothen lang ng konti. Just to give a little bit of a kaartehan to our meal, to our vegetables. So instead of it being a very pointed na sharp edges, parang we just make it a little bit of parang rounded, parang not very much bola-bola but sort of like that. Parang i-smoothen out lang natin ng konti. So this has been boiled for like 30 minutes. I'm first gonna add in my radish lang first. My carrots, I'm gonna add this. My carrots, my leeks, and my mushrooms. It will be my last para siyang parang garnish just to brighten up the color. And what I can already add in here is my onions. Actually, it's really good to use the white onions as well. But at times like this, it's really hard to look for white onions. Gagamit na lang tayo ng onions na pula. This is around 4 pieces na small, but if you have a really round big one, around 2 is okay as well. So I'm just gonna make it parang big cuts lang, mga 1/4 lang each. I'm gonna leave around parang handful lang just to toss up the color mamaya. But because I love the flavor of the onions, parang it has a very natural sweetness. It really is a good complement sa ating mga karne. I'm already gonna add in the most of my onions and give it another boil. Siguro we're gonna boil this around 15 more minutes until super tender na yung ating karne.
It's super masarap.
So around after 10 to 15 minutes of boiling the radish, if I can see na medyo lutong-luto na yung ating radish, I'm gonna add in my carrots. The key here for our kalbitsim is to really tenderize our beef and also to have this beautiful colors ng carrots and our radish. And of course, kasi pag medyo lutong-luto yung ating carrots, parang the color really faints. And of course, if you really love carrots, why not add it sabay-sabay with the radish? But diba, as I said earlier, the purpose of my radish for this dish is just really to complement the color for the aesthetic appetite niya. And now I'm gonna also prepare my mushrooms. If you have like shiitake mushroom, that's also really good to add. Whatever mushrooms that you have access to, just to give an additional color, flavor. And then yung aking leeks kanina na pinatira ko because I wanted to just to give them parang bright green color. So as you can see, as we added our carrots and also our radish, the natural water contents ng ating vegetables causes more juice. And of course, depending on your family's preference, how you really want your ulam, if you're more on the saltier and the drier sauce, just keep on boiling on an open pot like this. Or if you really want the more saucier, as the kalbi jim keeps on being cooked, you can probably add more water on it mamaya. And now, as long as the carrots are medyo softened na, I'm gonna add in my onions, my mushrooms, and my leeks parang as a final toss, because these are just for added color lang siya. Stay tuned! So after around 5 to 8 minutes of boiling after my carrot has been added, I don't really want to overcook my carrots because I really want the orange colors of it. I'm gonna add in the rest of my onions, my mushrooms, and yung aking green onions. Let's give it a quick toss. So after I have fully blended in all my vegetables, I can turn off the fire kasi yung ating retained heat can already cook my mushrooms on its own. So now here we have our final kalbi jim ready to be served. Before I serve, I just want to add 1/2 tablespoon of my sesame oil. Just konti lang. Just to have a little bit of a scent of this Korean touch. Must try recipe! Ta-da! So here is my very simple yet amazingly delicious kalbi jim. So hope you enjoy cooking with me and see you next time. Bye!
It's super masarap.
As you can see on my kalbi jim, all the vegetables, di ba parang nabubuhay sila sa color. It just makes it very amazingly appetizing. Even the kids who don't like vegetables, for sure they'll love it. So I'm gonna have my big serving of my beef and also my carrots and my mushroom. Let's first try my mushroom. Of course, with the recipes of Deliciously Ara, you can never go wrong. But my beef, dapat super tender na tender siya.